From Pacifica, this is Democracy Now!
Abu Jamal had multiple high-cost lawyers volunteering their time. He had plenty of lawyers. He didn't need more lawyers. What Mr. Adegbela did was he decided to join a political cause. That's what he decided to do.
The Senate rejects President Obama's pick to head the Civil Rights Division of the Justice Department. A group of Democrats join Republicans in opposing Debo Adegbile because he was head of the NAACP Legal Defense Fund, which represented Mumia Abu-Jamal on a constitutional issue involving his death sentence. But backers of Adegbile say the attacks are a new form of Willie Horton politics and race baiting.
In fact, his willingness to represent an unpopular defendant in an emotionally charged case demonstrates his appreciation for the rule of law, as well as his respect for the criminal justice system.
Then we speak with renowned author, educator, and political activist Angela Davis.
Abolition involves so much more than the abolition of slavery. Abolition involves so much more than the abolition of imprisonment as the dominant mode of punishment. It involves the reconfiguration of the social, political, economic conditions that render prison such a necessary institution.
All that and more coming up. Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. Lawmakers in the Ukrainian province of Crimea have voted to join Russia and hold a referendum on their decision within 10 days. The move could mark a major escalation of the crisis that exploded last week when Russian forces deployed around Crimea, far beyond the confines of their base there. The vote comes amidst new international pressure on Russia to withdraw from Crimea. NATO says it'll suspend cooperation with Russia, including a joint mission destroying Syria's chemical stockpile. Top diplomats, including Secretary of State John Kerry, held talks with Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, but the talks broke off without progress. Kerry said the two sides had agreed to keep talking.
We agreed to continue intense discussions in the coming days with Russia, with the Ukrainians, in order to see how we can help normalize the situation, stabilize it, and overcome the crisis. And those intentions are intentions that are shared exactly as I have described them between Russia, the United States, the European countries, and Ukrainians who were here. All parties agreed today that it is important to try to resolve these issues through dialogue.
In an effort to bolster the new Ukrainian government, the European Union has unveiled an aid package worth at least $15 billion. In other news from Ukraine, a leaked phone call has bolstered claims anti-government forces were behind sniper attacks on protesters in Kiev last month. Both sides of Ukraine's political divide blamed the other when dozens of people were killed by gunfire in the weeks before the ouster of Russian-backed President Viktor Yanukovych. But in an intercepted phone call between Estonia's foreign minister, Urmas Paet, and European Union policy chief Catherine Ashton, Paet says the sniper fire came from the opposition.
All the evidence shows that people who were killed by snipers from both sides, among policemen and people from the streets, that they were the same snipers killing people from both sides.
Well,
So that, and then she also showed me some photos. She said that has medical doctor. She can, say that it is the same handwriting, the same type of bullets, and it's really disturbing that now the new coalition, that they don't want to investigate what exactly happened, so that there is now stronger and stronger understanding that behind snipers it was not Yanukovych, but it was somebody from the new coalition.
In addition to aid to Ukraine, European leaders are also mulling new sanctions on Russia. In news from Afghanistan, a NATO airstrike has killed 5 Afghan soldiers in eastern Logar province. NATO says the bombing was a mistake. A United Nations panel on the civil war in Syria says the regime of Bashar al-Assad is waging a campaign of siege warfare and starvation against hundreds of thousands of civilians. The Commission of Inquiry says Syrians are being, quote, denied humanitarian aid, food, and such basic necessities as medical care, and must choose between surrender and starvation. The report also faults Syrian rebels for scores of extrajudicial killings. Speaking to reporters, panel chair Paulo Pinheiro says the UN Security Council bears responsibility for the ongoing atrocities.
The Security Council bears responsibility for not addressing accountability and allowing the warring parties to violate these rules with total impunity. One of the most stark trends we have documented is the use of siege warfare. The denial of humanitarian aid, food and basic necessities such as medical care and clean water has forced people to choose between surrender and starvation.
More details have emerged in the unfolding dispute over the CIA's alleged spying on a Senate panel probing the agency's torture and rendition program. Members of the Senate Intelligence Committee say CIA officials illegally monitored their staffers' work as they compiled the panel's exhaustive report on CIA torture. The report is yet to be released, but reportedly documents extensive abuses and a cover-up by CIA officials to Congress. Senators and their aides say they believe the CIA monitored computers they used while conducting research at CIA headquarters. The spying apparently came to light after the CIA complained Senate staffers had taken a classified internal review that showed CIA officials had misled lawmakers in disputing allegations of torture. In a statement, CIA Director John Brennan said lawmakers are making, quote, spurious allegations about CIA actions that are wholly unsupported by the facts. The dispute is expected to further complicate efforts to have the Senate report released. In an irony noted by critics, several members of the Senate Intelligence Committee, now complaining about being spied on, have been among the staunchest defenders of the NSA, which they also oversee. A group of Senate Democrats has broken ranks with President Obama to block a key nominee. In a 52-47 vote, the Senate rejected the nomination of Debo Adegbile to head the Department of Justice Civil Rights Division. Adegbile is a widely respected lawyer who's argued before the Supreme Court on voting rights issues. The confirmation fight focused almost solely on his role in the legal defense of imprisoned Black Panther Mumia Abu-Jamal, who was convicted of killing Philadelphia police officer. Adegbile was part of a team of lawyers at the NAACP Legal Defense Fund who successfully argued the trial judge's jury instructions violated Abu-Jamal's rights. 7 Democrats joined with Republicans to defeat Adegbile's bid. In a statement, President Obama called the vote, quote, a travesty based on wildly unfair character attacks against a good and qualified public servant. We'll have more on the story after headlines. The Obama administration has again extended the timeline for consumers to keep health plans that fail to meet the standards of the new health care law. President Obama granted a 1-year reprieve to the substandard plans late last year amidst anger over his failed pledge that all policyholders can keep their plans. On Wednesday, the White House extended the window to 2 years. Federal prosecutors have dropped a number of key charges against Barrett Brown, an activist journalist covering online surveillance who's spent over a year behind bars. Supporters say Brown has been unfairly targeted for investigating the highly secretive world of private intelligence and military contractors. On Wednesday, prosecutors dropped 11 of 17 counts, including a charge for posting a web link online to a document that contains stolen credit card data. All of the dropped charges relate to the hacking of the private intelligence firm Stratfor, which unearthed how the firm monitors activists and spies for corporate clients. The dropping of charges came just 1 day after Brown's attorneys filed a motion to have the same counts dropped, arguing posting a web link is protected by freedom of speech. Brown still faces up to 70 years in prison. The mining giant Alpha Natural Resources will pay a record fine for years of pollution in the Appalachian Mountains. Alpha has been ordered to pay $27.5 million for thousands of violations of water permits and dumping toxins into waterways. It's the largest ever fine under Section 402 of the Clean Water Act. The company will also be forced to pay around $200 million to upgrade facilities in 5 states. Around half the violations were committed by Massey Energy, which Alpha bought in 2011. Alabama lawmakers have passed a bill that would ban abortion after a fetal heartbeat is detected, which can happen in the earliest stages of pregnancy, around 5 or 6 weeks, before many women even know they're pregnant. The bill makes no exception for rape or incest. A similar measure in North Dakota has been blocked by a federal judge. The Alabama House also passed 3 other anti-choice bills Tuesday. One would extend the waiting period before an abortion from 24 to 48 hours. A second would force women who learn their fetuses have lethal conditions and cannot survive outside the womb to wait at least 48 hours and learn about perinatal hospice options, which do not currently exist in Alabama. Another bill would dramatically increase barriers to abortion for minors, whether or not they have parental permission. If a young person seeks legal permission from a judge instead of a parent, her parents could participate in the court proceedings even if they're abusive. In related news, 2 more reproductive health clinics in Texas, including one that provided abortions, have shut down due to the terms of the state's harsh new anti-choice law. Pro-choice advocates predict come September, when a section of the law requiring clinics to meet hospital-style buildings requirements comes into effect, just 6 abortion providers will be left in the entire state. A House hearing on alleged political targeting by the IRS has turned into a shouting match between the panel's top members. IRS official Lois Lerner refused to testify in the latest of dozens of hearings into the alleged singling out of right-wing groups for extra scrutiny. Oversight Committee Chair Darrell Issa, a Republican, adjourned the meeting after Lerner repeatedly pled the Fifth. In doing so, he refused to allow the panel's ranking member, Democrat Elijah Cummings of Maryland, the chance to speak.
Mr. Cummings, he continued this theme on Sunday. If you will sit down and allow me to ask the question, I am a member of the Congress of the United States of America. I am tired of this. Well, we have members over here, each who represent 700,000 people. You cannot just have a one-sided investigation. There is absolutely something wrong with that, and it is absolutely un-American. Hear, hear. We had a hearing. It was adjourned. I gave you an opportunity to ask a question. You have a question. I do have a question. I gave you Chairman, what are you hiding?
Congressman Elijah Cummings was speaking off mic because the chair of the committee, Darrell Issa, had shut his mic off. Tens of thousands of people marched in Venezuela on Wednesday to mark the 1-year anniversary of the death of longtime President Hugo Chavez. The commemorations faced disruption from government opponents who have staged a series of protests against Chavez's successor, Nicolas Maduro. Thousands of people rallied against Maduro on the eve of the anniversary. In media news, 2 anchors with Russia's state-owned U.S. news network, RT, have spoken out against Russian policy in Ukraine on air. On Wednesday, RT anchor Liz Wall resigned during a live broadcast to protest what she called the network's biased coverage in favor of the Russian government.
Personally, I cannot be part of a network funded by the Russian government that whitewashes the actions of Putin. I'm proud to be an American and believe in disseminating the truth, and that is why, after this newscast, I'm resigning.
RT has dismissed Wall's action as a show of self-promotion. The resignation came days after another RT anchor, Abby Martin, also spoke out on air, calling the invasion of Crimea an act of military aggression. In an interview with CNN, Martin told Piers Morgan that RT has acted no differently than the U.S. corporate media did in cheerleading for the Iraq War.
Piers no different than every other corporate media station. I mean, we're talking about 6 corporations that control 90% of what Americans see, hear, and read. The lead up to the Iraq War, parodying exactly what the establishment said. I mean, you could reflect the exact same criticism on all the corporate media channels. So, you know, I can only speak for my show. I stay true to my moral compass, but RT toes the perspective of the Russian foreign policy, just as the entire corporate media apparatus toes the perspective of the U.S. establishment.
And in breaking news, the State Department's announced a new ban on visas for Russian and Ukrainian officials who are responsible for or complicit in threatening the sovereignty and territorial integrity of Ukraine. The move could lead to the freezing of assets and barring Americans from doing business with targeted individuals. And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman.
And I'm Juan Gonzalez. Welcome to all of our listeners and viewers around the country and around the world.